Number 1. When I was young, I was obsessed with other things that people couldn't see: ghosts, sirens, demons. I thought it was all interesting that there could be other things in the world that no one can explain. When I was 22, I got a dream job at a department store. Due to it being a popular store, I won't tell which one it is. Those types of stores can get scary at night with all the strange people coming in and out of there. I was stuck at the night shift, resulting in me getting tired. It was 4 a.m. when an elderly man came in. He looked like he fought in World War II. I asked him the regular, "May I help you, sir?" He looked at me and grinned. "Oh, dear, do you have a book box?" "I have no idea what that is," I told him, and that I'd look in the back. I was the only one working because the company wanted to start with the 24/7, and I was kind enough to say that I'd do the shifts. Anyways, I went on my phone and searched up a book box. To my horror, it's a box in which you trap a demon. It brought back memories from when I was a child. I went back out to the man and told him we didn't have them. He apologized and left. That would be the first of many times he came in and asked me that. The last time I saw him, he came in and asked, "Oh dear, do you have a book box?" I sighed, getting really annoyed at the same question. I tried my best to be nice and tell him we don't have that box. He told me to look in the back, and I was hesitant to do it, but I did. I went to the back rooms and saw boxes of random things and tables. I waited there for a couple of minutes before going out again. I was going to say the same thing. We don't carry that. When I came out, he wasn't there. What was in his place was an open box with scratch marks on it. I picked it up and looked around. The man was so slow he wouldn't have gotten far, but he was nowhere in sight. I wanted to know where he went, so I went to the cameras, the box still in hand. I wasn't exactly allowed to see the footage, but I'm sure the manager wouldn't get so mad. I looked at the footage and saw no one. It was just me talking to no one, to thin air. I looked at the box in my hands and I remembered almost blacking out. I was so scared. It wasn't a regular old box. I skipped to that day and with horror, the old man did come this time. He was on screen and everything, but I wasn't. I was in the back probably. He placed an open box. In fact, it was the same box. He ran outside before I came in the shot. He never ran before. Before I had time to think, a thud appeared behind me and I bolted out of there. I quit the next day, not even caring if I would end up homeless. I had to leave. To this day, I wonder what would happen if I wasn't fast enough or I hadn't quit the job. I wonder what happened to the old man, if I'll ever see him again. I never want to, but I am pretty curious by nature. Number 2. This happened a few years ago while I was sitting in my living room waiting to go to school. I've graduated now, but I still remember like it was yesterday. My uncle was over staying for the month. We have 3 rooms in the house. One is mine, one is my brother's, and my grandparents sleep in the last room. Because of that, my uncle sleeps on the couch in the living room. Remember this for later because it is kind of important. I woke up to get ready for school. Everything is normal. My grandma wakes me up at about 6 to get ready. I change my clothes and I sit in my room for about an hour just doing nothing really. My bus comes around 7. I go and sit in the living room and wait for my bus to pull up to my house. My uncle is asleep on the couch in the living room. He isn't a heavy sleeper. I could turn on the TV and he would wake up. I've done it before and I know not to do it as to let him sleep. While waiting for my bus, I hear a knock on the side door. I was confused because it was 7 in the morning and no one ever visits at that time. I brushed it off as me hearing things and just continued to play on my phone. About a minute later, I hear another knock on the door, so I get up and open the door. No one was there, and at this point, I was kind of weirded out. I go and sit back down in the chair in my living room, acting like nothing happened. The next thing you know, there was a pounding on my door. I freaked out and ran out of the living room to my grandparents' room and sat there until the bus got here. Now, I bet you're wondering why I mentioned my uncle. Well, at the time he was sleeping in the living room, he did not once wake up. Even when the pounding on the door happened, It was so loud, he still slept through it, and it really freaked me out. For the record, the house I lived in was owned by my grandfather's friend. He actually died in the house in the hallway in the front of my bedroom door. However, my house is not haunted, and even if it was, we knew the guy and he was actually really nice. When the pounding on the door had happened, I had a really bad feeling. It felt like if I didn't leave the room, something bad was going to happen. I don't believe in ghosts, and I still don't, but thinking on it, it can't be explained. So, I don't know what to think. And after it hasn't happened again, I don't think it ever will. But what bothers me is what really happened. Number three. I moved to the house I'm currently living in about 11 years ago. At the beginning, nothing really weird happened until about 2013. My dad passed away that year. It was a really weird death. He just fell on his way home and died. Doctors said it was a heart attack, but even his own doctors feel weird about the autopsy. My dad had a lot of problems in his bones, so he had his own bedroom. My parents were okay. He just had a lot of pain if someone hit him in his sleep. The week after he died, I was really depressed, and my mom told me I'd probably feel better if I slept in his room. So I did that. At the beginning, nothing happened. Until one day at lunch, my mom asked me if I was talking to my dad last night. I was shocked. I didn't remember anything, but my mom told me she was up in the middle of the night and passed by the room and saw me sitting in the bed, talking to the wall and calling it dad. I thought maybe that was sleep talking and I was just dreaming about him and didn't remember. A few weeks went by and nothing else happened. But one day, I was just about to fall asleep, and something in my brain told me to open my eyes. So I did, and that's when my life changed. When I looked at the door, there was a woman in black just staring at me. I was really freaked out by it. I was trying to talk to her, but I couldn't, so I thought, oh, I'm just having sleep paralysis. Until I moved and turned on the light and she was still there. I wanted to scream and I couldn't. Then she just went away, vanished. I was finally able to call my mom into the room. She came in and calmed me down, and I was able to fall asleep. I was still sleeping in my dad's room. In the middle of the night, I felt the urge to open my eyes again, and I did. But this time was different. This time it was like a light in the form of a man. I first thought, oh my god, it's my dad. But as soon as I was getting up, he vanished. And the next morning, I told my mom about everything. She thought that my dad's death was messing with my mind, so she found me a psychologist. I went to the psychologist for about 1 or 2 years, and he just freaked me out. I don't believe in any religion at all, but he was pretty much forced me to become Catholic, which I was actually beginning to become. Basically, he was always saying to me that I saw the figures because I wasn't Catholic. Keep in mind I was 13. But one day, he told me something that was too much. I got there for the normal consult, and he wasn't there. I waited for 10 minutes in his office until he came in and gave me a pile of books and stuff about witchcraft and Catholicism. At the top was a paper with the name of a Church of Witchcraft. When he told me what that was, I just ran out of his office. I reported him, but no one did anything about it. After that, I explained to my mom everything, and she had my sister sleep next to me in my dad's room. That night we fell asleep, and it seemed to be a normal night until I felt the urge to open my eyes again. And I did because I thought it would be my dad, but it wasn't. The lady was there again. This time, it was different. I was able to speak, so I woke up my sister. She stared at the door and didn't see anything. She told me I was crazy and went back to sleep. I wanted to talk to the woman, but just didn't know what to say. I stayed up for about an hour, just looking at her until she vanished again. Weeks went by, and the woman never came back. But one day I was at my local coffee shop, and a family friend was there. He and my mom were catching up, and I was just listening until he started to talk about the woman who used to live in my house. Turns out she died in my room. I don't know if the woman was her or not, and until this day I don't know. Fast forward a few years, and I still see the woman in my room, and still can't talk to her. I never saw the man again, and my mom doesn't know that I still see the woman because she thought I was crazy before. I don't know what to do now. Yesterday, I went and took out my trash, and next to my house, there's an abandoned house, and I heard someone calling my name. My neighbor was also there, so I asked what she needed, and she replied, "Oh, it wasn't me, but I heard it too." She left, and when I was heading towards my house, I looked at the abandoned house, and a man in all black was staring at me. I called my aunt to see if she could see him too, but when she arrived, he was gone. Do you think it has something to do with everything? Number 4. We live in Taiwan, and as any native Formosan would know, Taiwan is a place with a shitload of ghosts, demons, and weird crap going on. This is a supposed true story I heard from a friend who was in the military and witnessed the event. My friend was an enlisted OR-1 soldier stationed at a military base in a mountain near New Taipei City. I won't exactly tell you where, but the base once served as an ammunition storage depot and has since been abandoned. From what he told me, the base had 12 sentry posts. Every single one of them has its own spooky history. But what really piqued my interest was when he told me about a mannequin in one of the posts that somewhat came alive, like literally. Here's what he told me. There's one sentry post, post number 2, which was completely empty except for an intercom phone and a mannequin. For some weird reason, our commanding officers didn't bother to have a single soldier stationed there, and for some even weirder reason, a mannequin wearing a military uniform with a helmet and toy rifle was placed inside. Some kind of sick joke? It had later toppled over on its own, but nobody really bothered to set it back up as the mannequin was creepy and nobody wanted to go near the post, especially after nightfall. It was after a hectic day of training, and pretty much everyone in the barracks was unconscious. That was until the squad leader came rushing in and screamed for us to get our asses out of bed and to gather outside in 3 minutes. We were thinking that this was some kind of emergency drill, or maybe the Chinese were invading, or whatever. We were just really unhappy that we had been called up at such a late hour without any forewarning. As we stood at attention, we saw our commanding officer rush into post number 2, accompanied by a few cronies. They emerged a few moments later, looking a bit shaken, and ordered us back to bed. A few days later, one of our superiors had told us what happened. Apparently, an NCO at the main building received a phone call in the dead of night from one of the sentry posts. "Sir," the voice began, blurry and crackling. The NCO absent-mindedly glanced at the flashing light from the control panel, which indicated the source of the call, and almost fell over in shock. The phone call was from number 2, which was supposedly empty. The voice spoke again, much clearer this time. "Sir, I've been standing here for 20 years. I'm so tired. Can I take a break?" The NCO was already freaking out and rang the alarm to notify his superiors. The commanding officer thought that there was a breach of security in the base and put the base on high alert and woke us up as well. At this point, the unidentified speaker at the end of the line hadn't hung up yet and continued to make some kind of sighing noise until the line went dead. Needless to say, a bunch of armed officers and soldiers rushed into number 2 immediately to find out what was happening, and found the intercom phone hanging from its cord. The mannequin, which had been previously toppled over, was in the upright position again. As for the phone receiver, the mannequin's hands were holding the receiver. About a week later, our base invited a traditional Taoist magician to perform a few cleansing rituals, burn the mannequin, and put whatever restless spirits that resides in post number 2 to rest. The intercom phone was also removed, and number 2 remained empty ever since. Of note, the mannequin had been there for only 2 or 3 years, not 20, as a ghost caller had previously claimed. And just to make the entire incident even more spooky, the intercom phone at Sentry 2 hadn't been functional for years. The line wasn't even connected.